Good morning, race fans, and welcome to Green Flag TV, where we are just getting set to kick off round number 2 of the Classic Indycar Series, brought to you by Butt Kicker in Wine Country. It's the Sonoma Raceway, and race number 2, the Pavement Recycling Systems 150. My name is Ola Wemble, alongside Austin Edstrom, and we're bringing you all of the action here tonight from start to finish. And boy, what a fantastic race it's going to be. It's a very technical track, even more so than Circuit of the Americas just 2 weeks ago for the opener. And I think this means we are going to definitely have ourselves with a very intense drive for us here for these upcoming laps.
Absolutely. Sonoma is such a fantastic road course here in North America. Absolutely amazing. Going to be awesome to see these classic IndyCar drivers throw these classic Indy cars around this place. I mean, the long course here at Sonoma. I think it says that we've got 12 turns. I would argue that there's 18, but we're going to have a hard time with the turn number tonight. But a couple of guys up here at the top of the championship going to have a hard time trying to take it away from Joshua Chin.
Joshua Chin, of course, running that part-time schedule, and it was not certain if he was going to be able to be in full running with us here this season. And while he may not be present today, that doesn't mean we've got any less of a field. We've got even more cars that are looking set to take it to the racetrack. I know Sebastian Kinder is going to be making his debut tonight, so the Frenchman will be making his way out onto the racetrack as well, currently qualified P5. There is so much to cover and so much that we'll have time to go over through the course of the night. But you know what? What better way to figure out what this racetrack is like than to hear it first from one of the drivers? Let's take a rundown with Andrew Adair Saunders for your track walk this afternoon. And then we'll, of course, be back after Simon Core runs you through the championship and how it shakes up after COTA.
Sonoma Raceway in California, USA. Track length 4.1 kilometers. 4 high-speed stretches. 12 turns. 2 ideal spots for overtaking. Top speed 260 kilometers per hour. And going on the throttle early out of turn 11, going to the outside, so for good line for 12 and over the line to start a lap. Going into turn 1, slightly modulating the throttle and prepare yourselves for the blind turn 2. Run the curb on the right, don't go too wide and stay on the right hand side to go into 3 and then into the blind 3A, taking the curb on the right hand side. Now this section is quite tricky as it's going downhill while you're attempting to brake for turn 4. Hitting the curb on the left to take a wide line for turn 5, which is easy in comparison. Now braking for turn 6. It is a long left-hander where you have to modulate the throttle for the best speed. Taking the curb on the right-hand side, preparing yourselves for turn 7, taking a few breathers before you brake hard into turn 7, which is more or less a hairpin turn. Going onto the throttle as early as possible out of turn 7 to go and take as much speed into the turns 8, 8A, 9, and 10, trying to not use the brakes at all, just modulate the throttle. Watching out if any cars in front of you are going into the pits, preparing yourselves for turn 11, braking hard, trying to hit the curb on the right, going onto the throttle as early as possible and going into turn 12. Check a few things on your car and cross the line. That was a 1 minute 17 across Sonoma.
This has been a day that has been long awaited since 2023. It is my honor and a privilege to tell you the Classic IndyCar Series is back!
With round 1 of the Classic IndyCar Series taking place at Circuit of the Americas, teams and drivers were unsure what to expect, and with a few minutes to go until qualifying, a familiar foe decided to arrive. Despite his part-time schedule, the King of Chins and reigning CIS champion Joshua Chin decided to open the championship, and he did so in style.
Wasn't even planning on running today, just kind of a spur of the moment thing, and worked out pretty well. Setup was already in a good spot thanks to Jamie and Andrew, and then just did some last minute tweaks and got it up there. I didn't figure I would have qualifying pace, and I was hoping the race pace would be pretty good, and thankfully it was. I was struggling in dirty air really badly the first stint, and the more I think about it, maybe it wasn't just the dirty air, it might have just been the track rubbering up and getting tighter and tighter, because the second and third stints were a really big struggle.
And yet, Cameron Dance gave him a rather solid run for his money. Who knows what could have happened if he hadn't been blocked by a midfield battle during the final lap of the race.
They're going to come through blows again. The battle for fifth is side by side. That's holding up Cameron Dance. Dance with nowhere to go. He almost loses it. Chin trying to hang on.
Chris Knox mightily impressed in his first CIS qualifying session, taking pole position by 0.6 of a second. It wouldn't be long, though, for the 5-star motorsports driver to make his first wheel-to-wheel contact in the championship. An impressive comeback drive would lead to a top 5 finish at the end of 60 laps. Also, Knox may or may not have been able to avoid some other tricky, let's say, experiences. To defend Lucas Laville, though, he was heavily sick on Sunday, explaining his retirement from the grueling event. Let's see what Laville, Cameron, and the rest of the title contenders can achieve today at Sonoma. A back of grid penalty probably won't help Laville and his teammate Jan Hoffman. With that, let's hand you over to Austin Edstrom and Nolan J. Rempel for the CIS Pavement Recycling Systems 150 live on Green Flag TV.
And we are back at Sonoma Raceway, just about ready to get things underway. And I can tell you right now, we are in for a wild ride tonight, right? I mean, this race is going to be, it's going to be a technical race. It's going to be a race about strategy. Who knows how this race could pan out as we get set to duke it out around wine country.
That's kind of the beauty about us not having too much IndyCar stuff on the service recently, is that everything that we see now is kind of new to an extent, and we kind of get to figure it out for the first time watching it here on broadcast. So just with the IndyCars coming back into the fold, it's almost like they're a new car, at least being able to be broadcasted. So we get to learn everything new for the first time here tonight at Sonoma, just like we did last week with Coda, just kind of figuring out as we go along where the passing zones are, exactly where we're going to see people making those dive bomb moves. Now, I think there's a couple obvious spots. The final corner, or at least that hairpin, long 180-degree right-hand hairpin, and also the double right-hander after the carousel. I feel like that's going to be a very, very heavy passing zone.
I know a lot of people, when they talk about Sonoma Raceway and IndyCars, right, you see they take a look, they usually run down that little stretch there coming down towards that right-hand sweeper and take a little bit of a chicane designed to slow these cars down a bit. And then an early hairpin instead of going right through to that final hairpin that the NASCAR layout so often uses. But, of course, being Classic IndyCar Series race, they're not just going back to the races that were run here throughout the mid-2010s. The race that this is based off of is from 1970. So that, and keep in mind, that was before any of those stretches were even built into the race course. So that's why we're running that long, sweeping layout. And we were talking about it before. That's going to throw a wrench into the works. If you go off there, it's going to be a monumental accident.
Well, and I feel like that's just kind of how it is around every racetrack like this, right? Like, Sonoma is completely covered, for the most part, on both sides of the racetrack by grass. And that just lends itself to a very, very dangerous situation most of the time. Now, iRacing has updated itself in recent months. I believe it was probably about half a year ago with the grass update, the grass physics update. So it's not as bad, but I do still think that we're going to see some people get sucked off into the grass just from pushing a little bit too hard. And we're going to see some big accidents down into the braking zones like you were talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And all of that comes into play with us now just getting this 5-minute warm-up session all wrapped up, which, of course, means we're ready to show you how everything's going to line on up for the Pavement Recycling Systems 150 from the Sonoma Raceway. Let's take a rundown of how everything's going to shake on up. Started on the pole, it is Ethan Aiken alongside Matt Molnar making his debut here tonight, at least in this 2024 campaign out of Canada. Marshall Stanley will be in the number 3 spot with Cameron Dance, trying to get some redemption after falling to second after being caught in a battle with lap traffic in 4th. Sebastian Kinder, the Frenchman, is going to be making his first appearance in the 2024 season, down in the number 5 position with Jack Stiles also making his first appearance in 6th. Johnny Garrett is 7th, Franz Josef Stum is in 8th, BJL was in 9th with Andrew Wood to round out the top 10.
Caleb Weekly is going to be starting in the 11th place spot with Randy Shoemake side by side with him in 12th. Jamie Wilson starting in 13th with Hans Pitkin in 14th. Andrew Aitken will be starting in the 15th spot with Rob Barnacow in 16th. Mike Gerlicka in 17th with Brandon Dollar 18th. Jan Hoffman in 19th. Sorry, I should say Jan Hoffman in 19th. And Robert Grosser in 20th.
21st place with Julian Altena alongside Lucas Laville. Andrew Adair Saunders is in 23rd with Logan Simmons down in 24th. Bottom 6 drivers not pointing down qualifying times. And it's about a 2.7 second spread from 1st to 16th. Then it's another 0.7 of a second off to Gerlicka. And then a good 4 seconds back to Brandon Dollar. So Dollar, no doubt, could be a little bit off the pace tonight. It's a difficult racetrack, though. And again, we'll see how this race is going to pan on out. Short pace lap here. We're not going for the full pace lap, so we're going to get this race up and running pretty quickly. Real quick, Austin, your thoughts before we go green?
Well, I think it's going to be a fairly quick race. 68 laps. It takes about a minute and 13 seconds to get around this place, so we're going to see about an hour and a half race relatively quickly here in the Classic IndyCar Series. And coming towards the final corner, I don't know. I just think that we're going to get a good race today. I do think those braking zones are going to be very, very difficult. I think it's an old, worn-out racetrack, and these are old race cars. So I do think that we're going to see some early trouble, but I think that we'll figure this thing out quickly and have a really, really good race to the finish.
Dollar, Grosher, and Simmons will start this race from pit road. 21 out of 24 starters will take to the green flag out of the final here. But we're happy that you're joining us here on a Sunday afternoon. Egan jumps on the loud pedal. We are racing for the Pavement Systems, the Pavement Recycling Systems 150 at Sonoma. Egan on a good getaway, firing up to turn numbers 1 and 2. He's going to tuck in line with Matt Molnar, who's going to give him the room to work with. Couple goes off in the background, and we got a huge pile-up coming up the hill.
Yeah, the top 10 or so all got through turn 1 fine, but a little bit further back, a couple drivers off the road. Oh, that left front is off of the 27. That's going to be his night over. Not even going to have an opportunity. Andrew Aiken already after lap number 1 going to be out.
Rest of the pack, meanwhile, firing down the hill and through the carousel for the first time tonight. Ethan Egan hanging on, but only by about 0.3 of a second from Matt Molnar, as Molnar trying to see if he can't catch up. The top, really about 7 or so, still bunched up line astern. I thought we'd see a little bit more of a spread amongst the top runners, considering how technical this racetrack is and how there's not a whole lot of very high-speed corners. Everything tends to be lower to medium-speed corners by IndyCar standards. Looking like Egan, though, will be looking to lead lap number 1.
Yeah, Egan coming around that fast right. Man, I feel like that right is fast in NASCAR. Watching the IndyCars go around there is unbelievable. And then just rapidly through this hairpin, Ethan Egan going to lead lap number 1 over Molnar, but Molnar had a pretty good final sector there to close in the gap just a little bit. So trying to put up some of a fight, but man, Aiken just got, I couldn't quite tell exactly what started that, but a couple front fenders or front wings coming off, and there was one guy that went around with Aiken here at the very beginning that I'm a little worried about too.
Oh, right there, the 27 lost control, so both the Aero X teammates got collected, and they're both going to be out of the race. That's big trouble. I think that was Barticow that went off with him, and it was. So 2 of the Aero X drivers out of the race on just the opening series of corners, let alone making it to the end of the first lap. That's not good news for Aero X in the team's championship.
No, not at all. And I got to point out Robert Grosser also coming to take lap number 2 after he took the start finish line. He just stopped on the racetrack and towed. So that's another driver out in the early going. So I think we're already out 3 runners at the very beginning. Altena down pit road as well, but I want to say that might just be some damage repair. I actually don't see them on pit road, but they're in it, so they might have actually gotten out of their car as well.
Taking a look back to Hans Picken and Caleb Weekley and Jan Hoffen battling for 13th on back as they work their way through this really rapid final sector. Caleb Weekley trying to keep Hoffen at bay. Hoffen around the long way through the sweeper and down in towards that right-hand kink. So risky to make a move there, but credit to Hoffman. He made it work. And the German asserting that dominance early on here, knocking Weekley down to 15th. We look up front to the battle for 8th between Stum and Wood.
Yeah, Studem holding on, coming down into turn number 2. And then down into the fast left-right over the hill. Very, very blind corner up to the right, and then you just come down the hill. Heavy braking zone down into the carousel section. Still a little ways until we get to the carousel. And carousel is extremely, extremely difficult to follow somebody through. So for Andrew Wood here, right on the back bumper of Franz Josef, it's going to be difficult for him to do anything with the dirty air. You can see him just pushing on exit, not able to keep the front of that car tucked down to the bottom of the racetrack on throttle like the driver in front of him. Oh, is this Caleb up the banking through the carousel?
Sure is. Caleb Weekley in the iconic motorsports machine spinning off at the carousel and rode up that embankment. We'll take a look back and, well, there you go. See him just loop that car around. We'll get a better look at this one here as he comes up over the rise, and that back end just steps away on you. It gets super light up over the rise because he's jumping on the binders, and he's going to have to hope that he didn't damage that floor there when he kind of hit that transition there to ride up the hill. And then Randy Shoemate just seconds later, the Aero X machine, having problems at the double hairpin at the top of the circuit, getting over the bumps on the outside, going for a spin.
Yeah, a little bit of attrition starting to find its way in here. You know, you gotta think this is a totally different beast than Coda. At Coda, you go off track because you push a little bit too hard, and you get a slowdown penalty. You get a 1x, whatever. You get to continue your race. You lose a little bit of time. Here at Sonoma, you go off the racetrack. You're gonna be lucky to have your car together with all the grass surrounding this place. So it's a whole lot less forgiving than Coda. Makes sense. We started the season at Coda. You know, maybe give them a little bit of a breather, wind them into the season. But now here at Sonoma with the grass on both sides, super treacherous for these guys. And I think we are going to see a little bit of a higher attrition rate than we saw last week.
I agree, right? We're going to be seeing that a little bit of a higher attrition rate starting to slowly bubble up. So these drivers, they're going to have to take very big care of these cars throughout the course of this afternoon. We saw already a lot of attrition in the early laps at Coda, too, remember? So it's always something that you got to keep that eye out for. As Molnar and Egan continue to do battle for the number 2 spot, about half a second separated. Ethan Egan up the road, pulling clear now by 2 seconds almost from Matt Molnar. So Ethan Egan looking like he wants to get himself his first win of the season, and he could very well make it work, seeing as how Joshua Chin, again, not present. And of course, your defending champion, we mentioned earlier, running that part-time schedule. Wasn't even sure if he was going to race last week at Coda, as he mentioned in his winner's interview. So it's not terribly surprising to see him not present here this afternoon. It does give some of these other drivers, though, a chance to make up that time. And we'll see how this could shake up the championship order. I wonder if Cameron Dance can potentially find his way back to the front, because he was fighting Chin for the lead for most of the race in Coda.
That's a very good point. We could see Cameron Dance come up here and maybe challenge Ethan again, but Ethan Egan again. But for now, he's fighting Molnar here for that second place position. A little bit late on the brakes for Dance, trying to maybe get a cut back on exit. Not quite able to do it before they get down into the S's here at the Sonoma Raceway, Old Sears Point. Can't wait for them to get the new repave job on here once SMI actually fixes the repave and gets rid of all the holes. This place is going to be absolutely rapid whenever it actually works.
So Cameron Dance and Matt Molnar engaged in a little battle there for the number 2 spot. You've also got Kinder and Stiles fighting for 5th, although that gap just extended up to over a second. One of the other closer battles on the racetrack is Jamie Wilson trying to keep Jan Hoffman at bay. And this is for 11th spot on the racetrack as well. So they're separated right now by only a handful of tenths. And then a little ways up the road, you see as well VJO in that 10th position, about 1.2 seconds up from Wilson, and trying to see if he can hang on with a little bit of pace.
Looking at the battle for 10th right now with VJO, actually a little bit further back now, 13th Pitkinen over Levier.
That is LaVille this time. It's
LaVille.
not.
So, oh my goodness, there's another week. I knew it, man. I knew I had that wrong. I knew it. I can't believe this.
So close. You had it the first time, and then you messed
LaVille.
it up.
Unreal. It's a whole different league, man. But the names are close. Unfortunate. I deserve
They
that.
really are.
Lucas LaVille. Goodness gracious, I can't even. But further up the racetrack, going down to that double kink, I think we're really going to see a lot of issues into this double right as we see that lock up just ahead. I believe that was Pitkinen in front of LaVille here, that 13th place spot. But I think we're going to see that a lot. It's going to be a very, very difficult braking zone. It's kind of a weird uphill section, so it really should slow you down a little bit better under braking because you're going uphill. But Cameron Dance having an issue through the last hairpin, losing a spot, maybe 2.
And he's got Sebastian Kinder starting to run him down, and Kinder, see if he can't have that look up the hill into turn 2. Not going to get there. The Frenchman will tuck back in line, but something happened to Cameron Dance in this final hairpin. Still chasing Molnar. Jumps on the brakes, and he's clipped the tires there coming to the corner.
Oh, man, that's going to be huge damage. That's going to completely destroy his race. I mean, he's going to continue to go backward for the rest of this. What in the world? Late on the brakes, looks good. Turned in just a little too early, clipped it with the right rear.
Right on board with Cameron Dance here, and take a look at this here as he slows it down. And we'll slow this down for you as well so you can get a proper look at this here. We'll rotate this as a shot around it. Right there, you saw that right rear got nicked with those tires, and that spins that machine around. That is huge damage for Cameron Dance. He is still on the racetrack. He has not come down to the pit road. I think he can thank his lucky stars that didn't rip that suspension apart. That easily could have been a race killer.
That could have, yeah, absolutely. We saw it on lap number 1 with the left front suspension getting completely knocked off, or the left front tire getting completely knocked off of Aitken. But there, Cameron Dance got very lucky. And yeah, it was a low-speed impact. but these are the older Indy cars, and I feel like just a little bit of touch can just rip off that tire. So he is extremely lucky that he's still on the racetrack at this point.
And then meanwhile, VJL under fire. Jamie Wilson round the long way through turn 2. And the Team Chimera 87 picks off the Swede. Picks up the Finn. And that will leave Wilson to punch his ticket into the top 10. Jan Hoffman trying to get up there as well. Oh boy, VJL under a lot of fire.
Yeah, VJL losing a spot, and you would think typically whenever you lose one spot, maybe you would have a little bit of a reprieve before you're under fire again, but not this time for VJO. Hoffman right on the back bumper through the carousel. VJO was not able to get to the bottom of the carousel, which actually allowed Hoffman to have the inside and to clean air down there, and almost gave him the opportunity to dive late on the brakes down to the double right. Not quite close enough. VJO is going to hold on to that 11th place spot for now. Wilson, though, pulling away in 10th.
So the race continues to develop. A lot of the drivers and the front runners have broken apart by a second or more. All of the battles right now are from 9th on back. This is one of the closer battles, and a bit further behind as well. You've got a big fight between Hans Pickinen and Lucas LaVille. LaVille to the inside to the final hairpin, and LaVille going to steal away 13th.
LaVille, great move there over Pickinen. We saw him stalking Pickinen just a couple laps ago whenever I couldn't say his name right. There, able to get the job done relatively quickly, move himself up to the 13th place spot. Great move there from LaVille.
There's a lot of ebb and flow going on right now throughout the course of the racetrack, and it really does lend to some absolutely thrilling battles, right? Because the draft is very powerful on these cars. So you see these gaps absolutely tumble when they're down the straights, but they can also extend so dramatically in the corners as well. But it does lead to this genuinely thrilling type of open wheel racing, and Jan Hoffman, seeing if he can't make a look down to turn 7. He's showing the nose. Tried to look to the inside, got up on the curve, though. I think that unsettled the momentum. VJO hangs on.
A second lap in a row, he's at least showed his nose down into that corner, but it is costing him time on exit. Look at all that ground that VJO is able to pick up before they even get to the S's. You would maybe expect it through the S's with the dirty air, but he's not even getting to the S's before he's already dropped off a second off the back bumper of the 96. So he's just got to be a little bit closer and pick his battles a little bit better. But Hoffman definitely looks quicker than VJO at this point. It's tough to pass in these classic Indy cars, man. I mean, there's one line around this racetrack, pretty consistent. And, you know, I talked about that heavy braking zone into the double right. It would typically be a great passing zone. The only difference, or the only problem, is that it's right after the carousel, where the long, dirty air corners prevents you from maybe catching up quite as much. So you've really just got to maintain through the carousel to give yourself an opportunity into that double right. Can he do it this time? Hoffman in the 05.
I think that is kind of a thing to know, right? Is the fact that this track is so one line, and it does make it a really difficult track to race on. I've always held the opinion, right, that Sonoma Raceway is a phenomenal track to drive on, but it's not necessarily the best track for racing because it is so difficult to pass, especially in much quicker machinery like what we've got here. It's a very unique challenge that these drivers have got to work with, and it does kind of make you wonder, right? I mean, how much are we actually going to be seeing overtaken throughout the course of this race? But these guys have been throwing up a pretty good show so far. I feel like this is kind of going to go the way of Austin, though, where when we get to the final half of this race, we're going to see a lot more overtakes as drivers start to make mistakes when that fatigue starts to set in.
Yeah, I think that you probably nailed it on the head with that comparison between qualifying and racing, or at least running by yourself and racing on this racetrack. I think that it's a very, very fun track to drive. I would kind of say it's similar to the French F1 track, where it literally is a test track, but they've turned it into a racetrack. Very fun to drive by yourself. But not the greatest racing, but it can put on good shows. Sonoma's had some really, really good shows in NASCAR and IndyCar in the past. It's just they can be few and far between in real life. Here on the surface, though, typically with the dirty air not being as bad as it is in real life, typically you get better racing. And we're seeing it here with Hoffman trying to get past VJO still through the carousel, and they're fighting a little bit further up the racetrack, too, as Stoom's holding on from Wilson.
And Franz Josef Stoom trying to keep Jamie Wilson at bay. This is for that 9th position, and the Aero X driver doing a good job on keeping the Brit behind him for now, but Jamie Wilson is not about to be denied. And look at how much he closes in through the S's there and down the hill, and that gap extends a little bit more, but could Wilson potentially get a run into that final hairpin? I think he's a bit too far back now. He lost too much time. He's a bit too conservative coming through the kink there Further behind, though, this is quickly turning into a 4-car scrap for that 9th place on back.
Yeah, it's just so hard through that kink, though. You know, you talked about Jamie Wilson maybe being a little bit too conservative through the kink. In my opinion, oh, Cameron Dance again!
And he's not the
Sorry,
only
that's
one.
not Dance.
Stanley's
No,
off
it's
the track.
It's not Dance. Sorry, I thought it was Cameron Dance. It looks like it's teammate. They have the same paint scheme. And then, like you mentioned, the 25 Stanley off the racetrack.
No, you were no, okay, you were correct. It was Jack Stiles that went off, and Marshall Stanley as well. So 2 drivers within the top 5, both spinning off the racetrack.
I thought that was Cameron Dance at first. I thought his race was going to the crapper, but then somebody running in front of him, Marshall Stanley, is the one that ends up losing it. See, that looks very much like Cameron Dance's paint scheme.
Stiles.
Yep. And then here it is, the 25 running in 3rd place, Marshall Stanley.
Oh, just finds the wall, and that's going to give some wing damage on the left front.
But I was talking about, you know, we're getting to the same section of the racetrack we were talking about just before. We're looking at Stanley here this time. A little bit further back, that battle for 9th with Jamie Wilson. I just think that it's so hard to follow through that fast right-hand kink and not lose any time, right? You had talked about how maybe he had been a little conservative. I think it was just that he got into the corner in the front end, probably couldn't turn, and he couldn't get on the throttle, or else he would have gone into the grass. So I think it just makes it difficult that the 2 heaviest braking zones where you would expect passing zones come right after relatively quick sections on the racetrack that have heavy dirty air problems. So that could limit the overtake numbers tonight, but we have still seen some pretty late dives in the first 13 laps.
You see Marshall Stanley into pit road, and I'm willing to bet this is to fix up that front wing. He did take a pretty hefty whack. We'll see here. If this is just a tire stop, he should be off the Jackson away within about 5 seconds or so. That's a very long stop, right? 12, 13 seconds plus. That's a change of the front wing. So the 25 car was forced into pit road to get that damage repaired. Let's ride on board.
Yeah, not too surprising. You're going to see him hit it with the left front tire right here, right front fender. Oh, I say fender, wing. Sorry, left front.
You
But
saw
yeah,
that, you saw the suspension flex a little bit there as well.
and if it's just a suspension that damaged, the wing change is really going to stink because it's just going to waste time, and it's really not going to do any good for him. I couldn't definitely see wing damage from that onboard. I would have to get another view, but obviously we're not going to see it now as he's changed the front wing. But we'll see what the 25 can do after that early hiccup. Now down a lap, back in 18.
It was a 34-second stop. That is, that's about a third of a lap, and he has just spun off the racetrack again at the exact same place. So Stanley having a heck of a time here, and that time he clatters the left rear, trying to get it back rolling.
That was pretty decent contact on the left rear for an Indycar for a flick spin too. I would say I'd be worried, but he is already running the last car on the racetrack. Other than the guys that. Maybe that's not too bad. But he's already running at the very, very back. Oh no!
I think that might be it. I think he just called it quits.
Yeah, sometimes whenever you make one mistake, they just continue to pile on you, and I think that's what we just saw from Stanley. Just unfortunately was running in the podium positions, and it just devolved so quickly.
And that upset it upset Jack Stiles, who was caught off guard, and that allowed for Andrew Wood to sweep right through. Take a look on board. I mean, look, that car definitely scared Stiles. He jammed on the brakes, and Wood said thank you very much. So that facilitated the pass for 6th.
Yeah, we've got some potential for some great racing in between 6th and 12th. All of those guys within 5 seconds of each other. We see them all coming around here. This final little kink coming to the front straightaway. Looking at Stiles, I believe, to see exactly what happened coming through the carousel.
I mean, this is what he sees. I mean,
oh, yeah, that's going to put you off.
That's a great save. I know it doesn't look like much from outside, but I promise you, that was a phenomenal save.
And has he got the position back?
It looks like he has.
Yeah, he's actually re-overtaken Andrew Wood, so big credit to him to get that spot back after the getting put off like he did through the carousel last time by. Coming through turn 2 here. Got to the inside of Wood, takes a spot back. Great job from Jack Stiles. He made a similar mistake a couple laps ago. Him and Stiles actually made, sorry, he is Stiles. Him and Stanley made the same mistake on the same lap, and Stanley compounded his issue while luckily for Stiles, he's kind of fixed it and worked his way back up into 6th.
You just saw Jan Hoffman get around Franz Josef Stum as well, so the German making some more progress as Hoffman now up into 8th. Most spots gained by far on the afternoon. plus 11. The only other driver that many spots up is Lucas Laville, who did not qualify, remember. Started down in 22nd. He is now up into 11th place. And now Jamie Wilson is off the track. So again, these mistakes starting to settle in more and more as one of the Chimera cars goes around.
And it's just not too surprising. You're going to see some fatigue start to set in towards the end of this thing. I mean, we have the possibility for cautions. Oh man, that's a weird little embankment that you mentioned earlier. You could maybe get some floor damage, but you know, there could be cautions, but we're probably not going to have cautions. So over the course of 68 laps, you're going to get tired, man. A lot of these guys have some pretty heavy direct drive wheels that exert a lot of force. You're going to get tired to the end of this thing, and we're going to start seeing a lot more mistakes towards the end of it, even if they're just like little minor twitches that lose some time. I got to think that as these things get on, it just gets harder and harder and harder at a road course with these fast vehicles.
And now you see VJO falling to another driver as Lucas Laville will break by him. And that was to put Laville up into the top 10. Julian Altena, of course, retired in this race earlier on. He has jumped into our YouTube chat just to mention he did have to run without a front wing for several laps because it was unrepairable damage, which is obviously you lose that front downforce and it is absolutely devastating to your lap times. The understeer is enormous. So the fact that he was able to still tick off 116s, considering how a lot of the field is still running 114s right about now, or 115s, that's not bad at all. I'll give him some credit for that.
No, it's not bad at all. He's able to pick up a couple positions from, a couple drivers that were also out on that lap number 1. Earl, I believe that Altena stayed out after that, after he got that damage. So Rob Barnicow and Andrew Aitken both got out on that lap 1 incident. Altena also had damage, but he ran a couple more laps there and put himself into a higher position, finishing in the 19th place spot. Fortunately, we do have 4 retirees on the evening and only 1 driver off the lead lap still on the racetrack.
And then, of course, 3 DNSs as well as, again, Logan Simmons, Robert Groscher, and Brandon Dollar all opting not to start this race at all. This is a pretty good 5-car scrap we've got here. I mean, we haven't talked about too much, but this is a pretty big pack. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, all tucked up within a 2-second span. When you're 18 laps in, that's a pretty big margin. And, whoa, we got one of the Aero X cars with big rear wing damage off the racetrack. And looking like Jamie Wilson may have collected him as well, but that's Randy Shoemake, who has just had a heck of a drive.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened from Shoemake through the carousel as we get a look back on it. Oh, actually looking at Jamie Wilson here.
Well, that was the incident from earlier. We'll get a little quick jump up. We'll see. All right, here's Shoemake.
Back in.
Oh boy.
Wow. Who was that?
That
was a great jump getting around that.
We'll get a
Great
ride.
evasive maneuver there from Saunders to not just absolutely clobber him. He should have been involved. That should have been both of those cars out. Oh wow. Big credit to him. I'll take that 1X any day of the week over the massive T-bone that we were about to see. That's a career ender in real life. I mean, that would have been massive.
I'm surprised that gave Shoemake damage because I don't think they actually got hit, but Shoemake definitely has damage that implies that he was tagged. And, well, we just saw the product of that right there as the Aero X machine spins off. And I do believe, quite potentially here, that it was netcode damage to Shoemake that never impacted the driver that allegedly hit him. And now Laville looking like he has just had an issue as well, as he has dropped the spot.
So you're not wrong. I don't see any damage on Andrew Saunders, but I gotta think that there might be something. What is going on?
What was all that about? Huh. A little bit of a weird moment coming through turn 7, but able to get it underneath him, and then Shoemake again with that rear wing damage. Same corner, but this time I think you can attribute that to a loss of rear downforce, just stepping the back end out. And now VJO spins off the racetrack. It is still off the racetrack. The iconic motorsports driver taking that loop out of turn 2, backs it up into the grass, and he's lucky he got that car rolling. I think that's one thing that's worth pointing out as well, right? Is the fact that these cars, if they stall, you need a starter to get them kicked back up again. So it's one of the other advantages on being in the sim, right? If you get it to stop, you're not at risk of stalling the car.
Yeah, absolutely. Now in real life, you might have a caution, so it would save you, and you'd get to restart with everybody though. So, it may be a double-edged sword, because the cautions don't come out here, so you still just lose a ton of time. But you probably lose a lap getting that thing started anyway if it happened But Egan, I got to point out, at the beginning of this first couple laps, I thought Molnar was doing a great job keeping up with Egan, but recently, I mean, the last 10 or so laps, we haven't even been paying attention to Ethan Egan because he has just absolutely dominated the field. Pulled out a 10-second gap over the 29 of Molnar. Great job here from Ethan in the early going. Still early going, like I mentioned, though. Not even a third of the way through this thing. But through the first 20, he's looking pretty good.
He's looking like he's been having a very solid day. So Ethan Egan, I think, can be very proud of how his afternoon has gone so far. The driver of the number 20, working his way up and around the racetrack and is, like you mentioned, 10 seconds clear. And I mean, Mountain Molnar himself in a bit of no man's land. I mean, that car right behind him is Cameron Dance, and that is the third place runner, 2 cars behind, and a good 3 seconds off of your third place runner as well. Pretty much everybody within the top 10 is at least a couple seconds out. And we got Mike Gerlicka coming into pit road, and he's not the only one. Randy Shoemake is in as well, and looks like he has retired the car as well as he has hopped out. So Gerlicka is in. This is about 21 laps in. Could this be our first scheduled fuel stop of the night?
It definitely could be. We're just going to have to pay attention to see if a couple other guys follow him down. Are we going to see a good wave of guys come in already? It is before that third of the way point. I would think that everybody would want to get to about 23, because if you make it to 23, you can make it on a 2-stop. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait to see if he just did a little bit of short pit. Maybe he's just trying to pick up some time on the new tires, and he could make it on 2 stops still. We're just going to wait and see how long everybody else can stay out on the racetrack.
We saw quite a few drivers attempting that undercut strategy.
Off the grat.
Well, it's not going to help him at all, but we talked about it at Dakota, right? Quite a few drivers were going for that undercut strategy, trying to see if they could get a leg up on their opponents and get out in front of them with how difficult it could be to pass in Austin, Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some drivers trying for that undercut strategy here this afternoon as well. Again, given how difficult it can be to pass here at Sonoma.
I definitely think I don't know. I feel like we're going to see strategy be the big call. Now, it's not going to be as big as it was last week because the race for the lead isn't as tight, right? But everybody that's fighting for position is still going to be using that strategy to their advantage, and it's going to be a very big thing to watch out for in this race. It's going to determine where everybody finishes from about 4th on back, as it's pretty close between these guys everywhere from about that position on back. I do think that maybe we'll see a good battle between Molnar and Dance. We could see some strategy play come into offer for us here for the top 2. But other than that, up there in the race lead, Ethan Egan, I don't know if it really matters what strategy he runs. He could maybe even do a 3-stopper and be able to win this thing.
You look from the gearbox here of Jan Hoffman as he's trying to pull a gap out of Andrew Wood, and he's been building this gap out steadily over the last couple laps or so. It did break to over a second, so I think Wood may very well have lost the draft, and that is not going to help matters when he gets around to the front stretch. Well, it kind of doubles as the front stretch. I mean, it's the shutdown zone for the NHRA drag strip here, of course, right? So it's like, what, front stretch 2.0? Would you call that the back stretch? I wouldn't know. It's attached to the actual front stretch. I don't know if that counts or not.
That's a very good question. I mean, here's the deal. I don't think anybody would have a good answer for you because they number their corners wrong here anyway. So
You're not
how could
wrong.
they name their straightaways correctly?
Do not get me. The cornering here infuriates me to no end. Every time.
I had to bring it up. I had to.
Every single time I broadcast the race here, I end up going off on some rant about corner numbers. Officially, there's 12 around this layout we've got. It should be 18, and there's nothing that anybody can say to convince me otherwise. Half of the S isn't even counted as a corner. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I don't get it either. I'm right there alongside with you.
They took the wine country part to heart when naming the corners, apparently.
Yeah, they were probably under the influence whenever they decided the quarter numbers. That's why you don't drink and drive, folks.
Oh
no, who's that off the racetrack?
That's Styles. Jack Styles in the 59 car, taking the Hybrid 2 machine off the racetrack. Get a look at what happened to him coming down the hill. I'm willing to bet he's just lost that on his. Yep. You saw him start to twitch and steps around on him. It's one of the easiest mistakes to make, and that's one of the most volatile corners on the circuit.
I'm a little surprised at how how difficult the carousel is finding itself to be for a lot of these guys. We've seen more incidents through the carousel than I figured we would have seen, as we see Andrew Wood completely lock up the right front tire, getting down into the final hairpin here. But yeah, I'm surprised the carousel is so treacherous. I mean, I guess in hindsight, now that we've seen it happen, I can make sense of it. They're trying to get as much throttle down coming out of that corner, long 180-degree corner where you have to be super patient on the throttle. If you get on it just a little bit too quickly coming out of that thing, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. The right rear loses grip and will just spin out on you really quickly.
Really doesn't do it justice how severe the undulations are. I mean, look at just how much here the track falls away from Andrew Wood as he goes down through the carousel, trying to keep close to the gearbox of Jan Hoffman just up the road. Chimera and Vortex Sim Racing have been rival teams for about as long as this series has been alive, and so many times I've seen these two drivers duking it out back and forth for the team's championship. So I'm not surprised that we see their drivers nose to tail again in a big battle for 6th.
Yeah, Hoffman doing a good job hanging on as Wood made that mistake last time by, but with Wood making that mistake, he's also caught right back up to the back bumper. So I got to think Wood's a little bit quicker than Hoffman at this stage of the race. Still early going, but if you're Hoffman, you gotta think, man, I want to keep him behind at least until the pit stop, slow down his advantage, or slow down his advance as much as possible. But now I say that Hoffman's come from 19th, Wood's come from 10th. So Hoffman has passed up Wood at some point in this race, but right now Wood looks quicker.
Julian Altena still watching along, has mentioned he might get back out onto the racetrack in a bit here to see if he can't maybe pick up 17th, given that Shoemake and Stanley are both out of the running. I mean, it's a viable strategy, right? I mean, it's free points.
Well, how many laps can you go with unrepairable damage? Because isn't that a meatball, right? So you only get like 3 laps to your name, don't you?
No, however long it takes to get the damage fixed. I mean, if it takes half an hour to do an engine change, it takes half an hour to do an engine change as Kayla Weekly comes into pit lane.
Fair enough, but I thought he said it was unrepairable, not a...
Unrepairable front end damage, but the engine is still very much intact, is my understanding. Okay. Oh, that's not going to help Weekly there as he overshoots. Had to reverse back into his pit stall, but I mean, Altena's gonna be down on pace. He's not gonna be competitive for any of these other drivers that are undamaged as of right now. But I mean, he could still very easily pick up some extra spots of drivers that aren't in the running at all.
Yeah, I just assumed that it was meatball damage, and once you get a meatball, you only get 3 laps on iRacing. So I just figured there would be no way.
You get 3 laps to come into pit road to serve it.
Yeah.
Ooh, as well. There goes Weekly.
The cold tires, man, it's catching people out time and time again.
And that's up and over the rise as well, so that's right where the car gets light as well. So that's a double whammy that'll be working against you.
That's the 4th or 5th time we've seen somebody come out of pit road and lose it within the first 5 or so corners. So you're gonna have to be paying attention to that for the rest of the race as well. Could Ethan Hagen maybe make that mistake up there in the race lead and give us something to talk about here at the or come to the finish?
Hoffman and Wood still embroiled in what is now the battle for 5th. As Johnny Garrett, looking for Johnny Garrett at the moment. Looking like, yeah, Johnny Garrett did come down to pit road a couple laps ago as well. I was wondering because Hoffman and them were battling for 5th, so somewhere in here we saw Johnny Garrett also come down to pit road. So the Aero X machine back out onto the racetrack down in 12th, and will cycle through. Still have got the top 11 that have yet to come down for their first stops of the afternoon. I wonder if some of these drivers are actually able to push it to the halfway mark. I mean, we're not far off from that, less than 10 laps.
Yeah, we're about 7 laps away. Halfway point's going to be at the end of lap number 34. So you're absolutely right. Could some of these guys maybe push it into a 1-stop? I mean, that's gonna be a tough ask. I remember Coda being a 2-stop, and I think it was firmly a 2-stop.
Well, it was a shorter mileage, I believe, last race 2 for the opener.
Yeah, and if it's a shorter mileage, then
longer mileage. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Mileage.
Excuse me. Okay, then yeah, we could. Well, we might be able to see these guys funnel it down, but not the 29. That's our 2nd place runner, Molnar, coming in on lap number 28. That's telling me he's got to pit twice.
Yeah, I may be wrong. There's a reason why I'm not a strategist.
Well, he might just be short pitting, right? Maybe they can make it. Maybe they can make it 40 laps on a tank of gas, and that's why he's just really pitting really early. But I I'd be willing to bet. For him, it's a 2-stop. But again, for Ethan Hagan and a couple of these other guys that are coming out on pit, or staying out on the racetrack, there's still 9-10 drivers that haven't come down pit road. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somebody tries to.
Well, here comes Andrew Wood trying to undercut Jan Hoffman. So we'll see what this battle could do as the 64 trying to undercut the 05 here.
Yeah, the 64, Wood and Styles both down on pit road. Gonna have to see exactly how good of a stop Wood has, and again, we got to pay attention to these guys coming out of pit road. Seems to be a very, very big issue, but our race leader, they're talking potential 1-stops, doesn't look to be the case. Ethan Hagan down pit road.
It's very sketchy pit entry, isn't it? I don't think that's been mentioned all that often, is the fact that of how sketchy it is trying to get into pit road here. And we've seen drivers take advantage of the sketches of this pit road before. I know most memorably for me was in the beer league 2 seasons ago when they pulled the old Chastain move to...
That was amazing.
Oh, it was. It still is.
Can't do that in IndyCar with damage turned on. Definitely
I
can't.
don't think it would work.
No. But to your point, it is a pit road you can be aggressive onto, and you can make a big mistake because the timing line, or sorry, the speed limit line, is not until after the corner. And you're going around that entire very, very boxed-in area, trying to get a little bit of speed out of that.
Oh,
and if you,
VJO.
There it is, VJO. If you get on the throttle, or sorry, if you get on the brakes coming around that corner for the stop, or to get the speed limit down, it could be tough because you're turning into the braking, and at that point, that's whenever you can really, really lock up a tire if you get too heavy on the brakes. So everybody seems to be okay this time through, but I wouldn't be surprised if that second time through, if maybe somebody's trying to push a little bit too hard or makes a mistake.
On the track map, you can see Jan Hoffman still in pit road in the 05, and you're also tracking Andrew Wood, the driver that is trying to beat Hoffman out of pit road here in the battle for the 6th place. And how about that? Hoffman out by a mile. Only 9 seconds in the box. Andrew Wood was in there for over a second longer, so something went awry on Wood's pit stop, and he's mired in traffic now, battling with Jack Styles and Lucas LaVille. And Andrew Adair Saunders.
I mean, just it's all kicking off kind of coming out of the pit road. Not even like a battle on the racetrack, but I got to point out Cameron Dance has jumped Molnar through the pit road, or through the pit cycle for second, and has actually been running faster than Ethan Hagan this entire outlap. Ran him down about a second over the course of this lap. So even the race for the lead is starting to get a little bit closer.
I'm going to put an asterisk on Cameron Dance jumping Molnar. Molnar was in the box for 11.1 seconds. Dance is only in the box for 9.4. And right now, the gap is only 2 seconds. So they would have been about half a second apart when they left pit road, had it not been for Molnar's long stop.
That is a little strange, but regardless, Dance still picked up a good bit of time on Hagan too. He was over 12 seconds back from Hagan, and now he's in the 8-second bracket.
We see Hans Pikkinen making his way down to the race into pit road. He and Andrew Adair Saunders are the last 2 drivers that have yet to make a stop, and then we'll be fully in, and there goes Saunders into pit road as well. So pit cycles are complete now. Everyone's going to be able to cycle through, and then we'll see where these battle trends are going to shake up after the fact. Jack Styles and Andrew Wood still within a second of each other, battling for 7th.
Jack Styles coming through the top of the hill section here at Sonoma, and then down into the braking zone into that right-hander, a little bit more than a 90-degree. Very acute angle corner there for these Indy cars, getting down into the carousel. Andrew Wood still just trying to fight his way up to Jack Styles. We've seen a couple mistakes from both these drivers so far tonight, putting themselves down a good chunk of time off the race lead, but still up into the top 10, battling for that 7th place spot. Jack Styles holding on, going into this double right-hander and into the S's, able to pull back away from Andrew Wood just ever so slightly, coming onto the throttle, but through the S's. If Andrew Wood gets any type of any bit closer, I think that he's going to struggle really, really heavily through this fast right-hander. But instead, through the S's, he does lose a little bit of time. As we're looking at a replay of the 34, seeing what happened to Franz Josef.
Yeah, Stoom going around the 34 ARX machine, just going for a lazy slide, and one of the Chimera cars had to go evasive as a result. But this battle for 7th going to continue as Stoom dropped to the 11th spot as well. But racing action, it's definitely picking up, and this is going to be I think, a long haul now that we're looking at for these drivers to see how this is all going to pan on out. The only other race in April is going to be 2 weeks from now, of course, the Long Beach Street Circuit. You want to talk about a strategy race? Oh, boy. 85 laps, too.
I will not be here for that one. That is so sad. That's going to be an insane race.
By the way, a little asterisk as well. I know that technically 68 laps on Sonoma is 172 miles. They are going off of nautical miles, interestingly enough, not empirical miles, which I found an interesting little tidbit. So there you go. That's why
What's a nautical mile?
It's what ships use in the ocean.
Okay, but how is their mile different than our mile?
I have no idea.
and this is a German league. Why are they using miles? They should be using kilometers.
They might use nautical miles. I'm not sure. You know what? I'm going to look this up now.
I'm very confused. If they do, that'll be surprising, because I've been hearing from Europeans we need to switch over to the metric system ever since I was a baby.
A nautical mile is equal to 1.15 land measured miles.
But why?
Ask the National Ocean Service. That's all I got
Fair
for you. That's all I got for you. The first oval race of the season will kick off on May 5th. That'll be at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh.
208 laps. That's not a track you see IndyCars at a lot, and for good reason. It's a narrow racetrack to be working with.
Yeah, you might have potential liability issues in real life, but here on the simulation, it becomes a very fun racetrack as we see Caleb Weekly going off into the dirt, running in 15th. Gonna potentially, I don't think he actually lost a spot. I think that was the lead lap car coming through.
Yeah, that was, Caleb Weekly just letting a lead lap car through after he spun off. Francis Stum after his spin, trying to run down Hans Pitkanen for the 11th spot. He dropped to 12th after that spin. I mean, he's been consistently quicker than Pitkanen too, so I would expect Stum to make pretty quick work here of the Fanatec machine once he gets to him.
Yeah, he has been quicker, but again, it's been tough to pass him, right? And I'm kind of surprised. I thought it was going to be a little easier, but just from watching how heavy the dirty air is through that fast right-hander that they're about to come through after the S's, and just the carousel, just how much dirty air they're experiencing, trying to get up to him. It's not allowing them to get down into the braking zone. Stum, looking, though, down to the final braking zone, fades back into line. Just not close enough. He's just very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Most of the passing we've been seeing tonight is off of mistakes from the driver in front.
And that's how it was like at COTA too, right? A lot of the battles came in the first half of the race, and it was a race of attrition from there to the end. It's no surprise, right? Everybody settles into their rhythm, and then it's a fairly orderly race, all things considered at that point on. This is not the only race we've got this afternoon. Of course, the SRL Next Gen Cup Series will be racing at the Darlington Raceway this evening as well at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time. And then tomorrow evening, the High Tide Race League Emerald Racing Designs Cup Series will run down to the older scan of the Texas Motor Speedway from 2008. That'll be at 9 o'clock p.m. And then April 9th, the OMSRL Truck Series kicks off chase season at North Wilkesboro Speedway. They'll be racing for about 150 laps around that beautiful racetrack in North Carolina as well. That'll be 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday night. And if you have missed the first half of racing action tonight, don't fret. Next week on April 14th, ESTV will be rebroadcasting the Pavement Recycling Systems 150 on all of their global distribution partners. That'll be on Roku, Amazon TV, and much, much more. You can check them out on their website for more information on where you can watch it and what might be more relevant to you if you don't have Roku available to you. But this battle for 11th, it's not going away, is it?
No, not quite. Hans Pitkanen not able to get away from Stum, but Stum's not, again, it's just so difficult to get up there and actually make the move. I feel like you can be faster than somebody by a good bit, but it just hasn't been enough. I mean, this battle for 6 hasn't really been going anywhere either. Hoffman and Styles have been pretty close to each other this entire time as well, and Styles, although he's looked quicker than Hoffman on multiple occasions, hasn't been able to get it done. Actually, I think I was thinking about Wood. Actually, Wood was behind him not too long ago and was trying to pass him. Now it's Hoffman after the pit stops, and he's not been able to do anything either. Styles. Sorry, it's Styles.
It's difficult when all the teams got similar paint schemes to each other, but it does make the teams at least identifiable, which is a plus.
Yeah, that's true. It does make it a little strange. It's tough for Formula One sometimes, but you know they got the little yellow things on the handlebar at the top so that they can distinguish between, one of them's black and one of them's yellow.
Yeah.
On the removable thing on the top. I don't know what it's called, man. But for the cranes to get the rope around it to
bar?
remove them after they crash. No, it's not a roll bars. I don't know.
The halo?
Whatever it is. Nope. It's not the halo. There's just a little stick that sticks off the top of F1 cars. If you've really never paid attention, you would never even know they were there.
Is it the TV camera?
I mean, it's kind of. You see the little red thing sticking off the top of his right here for Jan Hoffman. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, that's the TV camera.
That's a camera?
Yeah, that's the that's a 360-degree camera.
Well, for the F1 cars, maybe they put the camera on it, but it's not specifically for the camera. It's to remove the car from gravel and pull it up into the air if they need to.
Rotatable camera all the way around.
That's not what the F1 does. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's what they should do.
This is a classic Indy car, and it's a little bit better than the 2024 F1 cameras. They need to get their crapping gear, don't they, over there?
I'll tell you what, this battle not looking like it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, so we're going to take ourselves a step back and give our voices a rest. It's been exciting so far, and this is going to be in for a wild finish as well. You're watching the Paper Recycling Systems 150 Replay TV, and around goes Styles. That's going to throw away the battle for 6. We'll be back in a moment.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Green Flag TV into the Paper Recycling Systems 150. This battle for 13th continuing to close in as VJO really piling on the pressure. Julian Altena has had a couple of incidents while we were under the that break, as you see him here looping the back end of that machine coming out of the final hairpin, and he just now went off the racetrack again and has now taken that tow back to pit road. He was going out of the racetrack to pick up the 17th spot. He very much did that, and he backed that one into the wall, so he just calls it quits from there. And then Jack Stiles having another problem while that was going on as well.
Pretty stylish way to pick up a couple positions there from Julian Altena. Here for Stiles, though, not what you want to see.
Not very stylish.
Was that before we went to the commercial? Was that a replay of that? Or
no, that was as we were coming back, actually.
Oh, man. So I figured it was the same one because it was the same corner.
I'm disappointed you didn't get my pun there.
To be honest, I don't even remember what the pun was, so I must have completely
It wasn't very
zoned
stylish of him to spin it out.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I heard that, but I just didn't reference or recognize it.
That's not an encouraging reaction.
Well, it's not. I think it was good from you. It's just my mind was not in the right place. So maybe I need to go get tested. I don't know.
LaVille and Wood still duking it down for 7th and 8th on the racetrack as LaVille made up the most spots so far, plus 14. Jan Hoppen, 3 seconds up the road, plus 13 on the afternoon. The biggest losers so far, Marshall Stanley, crashed out of the race on lap 13 of this race, and it was not the day that Stanley was hoping to have. Kind of a little rundown of the field so far. You've got 24 cars that were slated to start this race. 3 of those did not start this race. We were left with 21 out of 24 that started this race. Out of those drivers, you've only got 16 left on the racetrack and only 15 that are still, sorry, not even that, you've only got 10 that are still on the lead lap as well. So this field has been whittled down pretty heftily as it was in Austin, Texas. And now we see LaVille trying to run down Wood for a spot.
Yeah, Wood and LaVille have been relatively close to each other for a good portion of this race, now battling for that 7th place spot. LaVille has come from a little bit further in the field, right? Yeah, 22nd. So LaVille all the way up from P22 on the field up to fighting for P7 right here against Andrew Wood, and he's doing a great job. He's less than a minute behind the race leader, and whenever you've got 21 cars starting in between you and the race leader, that's a pretty good showing at this point, running in the 8th place position for Lucas LaVille.
It's kind of the lap times have been steadily closing in. I mean, look at how much LaVille gained on lap 38. 8 tenths alone, 4 tenths on lap 39. Then you can tell lap 40 is when he caught him because all of a sudden he only closed in 1/10 of a second and then 14th thou on the last lap by. So it's like what you said, right? He's been caught in not only that dirty air, but also the fact that he just hasn't found an opening to make that overtake, and he's trying to see if he can set him up for a pass at some point down the line. But you can, I think those last two, the first 2 laps that I grabbed down to the bottom right, it's pretty damn evidence that LaVille is the faster of these two.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and like you said, you look at the evidence. You look at the 2 laps before he got to the back bumper of Wood, and he was, I mean, absolutely rapidly running him down. 1.3 seconds in 2 laps, and then as soon as he gets to his back bumper, it's stagnated. He hasn't done anything. So it's just tough, man. Like I said, I really thought that the heavy braking zones were going to be big passing opportunities, but the problem is that the corner right before him is just dirty air central. It's like driving a boat behind another boat around those corners. So it's been tough.
Wood and LaVille will continue to do gap amongst themselves. I've been kind of tracking this battle for the top 2 as well. And you can see, I mean, Molnar was running down Cameron Dance pretty convincingly the last couple laps, but this last time by actually lost 0.3 of a second too. So Cameron Dance could be under fire here before too long. That gap's less than 2 seconds away, so it's not a huge distance, especially since Dance has got lap traffic in front of him.
Yeah, not a big difference between these guys. And, the 31 off to the outside of the racetrack. That was a little sketchy moment there for Dance maybe. But I got to point out, Dance had a moment earlier in this race that cost him a good chunk of time going off the racetrack and spinning out. So without that issue, Cameron Dance could be on the back bumper of our race leader, Ethan Hagen, and we'd have a really good race for the finish. Ever since that pit stop, he's only lost about 1.5 seconds to the 20 of Hagen. So I really do think that the top three are relatively similar in pace, but Egan's just stretched out that gap in that first stint and has set himself into a good spot as LaVille has finally gotten by Wood here.
Made that pass up into turns 1 and 2 around the outside of the Team Chimera driver, and they got a little tight there coming up and over the rise, but LaVille able to make that pass work. Good show for him. And on top of that, that battle's still within 0.3 of a second, so now LaVille's job is going to be to try to drive away and build that gap, prove that he's still the faster of those two drivers. Further behind, Franz-Josef Stum still trying to run down Hans Pitkinen as well. That's the battle for the last spot inside the top 10.
And I got to point out for LaVille, with him coming from 22nd on the field, now up to 7th, just looking at the timing and scoring on the left side of the screen right now, with 24 laps to go, he'll be coming to 23 here pretty soon. I think P4 is on the cards for him. Honestly, I mean, it's going to suck because whenever he gets behind Hoffman, he's going to stall out for a few laps, so he's got to make quick work of Hoffman and Garrett, but I think he's got the potential to run down Kinder and potentially get 4th place at the end of this.
Andrew Adair Saunders has got Jamie Wilson starting to breathe down his neck as well. So could we see Wilson finally get into a net gain? Remember, he had that incident early on, lost a few positions. He's been on the recovery drive ever since. He is back to where he started in 13th. And he now has a chance to finally put himself on a net positive of the race here tonight by getting around Andrew Adair Saunders in that number 47 machine up the road. But Saunders, we saw at Coda, right? He's not a driver that takes any battles lying down, so Wilson could have a fight on his hands.
Yeah, Wilson absolutely could here in that 13th spot, trying to, I don't know. I feel bad for Wilson because I feel like he's had a couple just like little minor issues that have all just kind of stacked up onto each other, really put himself into a precarious situation here, but he's still got somebody right in front of him. He's got Sounders, well, he did, now he's back. Sounders disappeared and reappeared on the racetrack, but he's got the possibility to pick up this 12th place position, but I feel like Wilson has to feel a little hard done, like he could have gotten a little bit more out of the night.
Well, he's showing he still has pace under that car as he closes in 0.4 of a second and just turned to a lone, and he is all over the gearbox now of Andrew Adair Saunders as they work their way into the infield section of the racetrack back towards the carousel, but this is where we've seen those runs stall out so much over the course of the afternoon. And trouble for your 4th place runner, the Frenchman Sebastian Kinder is off the racetrack and he's going to drop to 5th. Johnny Garrett is up to 4th.
Well, and I said LaVille had a really, really good shot at getting that 4th place position. I feel really good about that now after the Frenchman spins out. Got that curb. I mean, it really had nothing to do with the curb. He got over the hill and looked like he was A-okay, but like we've seen many times tonight, just putting a little bit too much throttle while you still got a little bit of wheel put into that thing coming over that hill can just send that thing around so quickly. And now he's under pressure from Hoffman, and now that these two are so close to each other, that could bring LaVille into this fray and make this a 3-way fight for 5th.
Issue is Hoffman and LaVille are teammates, both with Vortex Sim Racing. So how eager are they going to be to battle it out with one another, right? Are they going to go for a position swap potentially?
Well, and they both started at the back. Hoffman and LaVille both started 19th and 22nd, respectively. So both those guys starting at the back of the field have done incredible jobs. Not putting down a qualifying lap. I guess I'm sure both teammates, it's just the strategy that they run, but they clearly got the pace to run up towards the front of the field. You got to think that if they qualified, they would have a potential top 3 on the in the cards for him tonight, but instead fighting for this 5th place spot with Kinder. If LaVille gets up to the back of Hoffman, I think he'll probably race him relatively nicely if it's obvious he's faster, but if LaVille only catches up to Hoffman because Hoffman's getting held up by Kinder, I think we'll just see him race it out for this 5th place spot.
20 laps to go, this time by the line, so we have entered the final third of this race as well, which is obviously going to throw up its own questions, particularly when are we going to be seeing these guys come down into pit road again. The last time we saw these drivers making these pit stops here on the racetrack, it was just shy of the halfway mark, about 4 laps away. Although they are, in theory, less than 10 laps. As you can see, the pit stop deltas for, well, right now, it only shows the top 4. We'll extend that to the top 10.
Yeah, and looking at that, right, Agan ran 28 laps, Dance 28 laps, and they've got 19 currently on their tires. So you got to think that they're going to run another 8 or 9 laps, and then they'll come down. Obviously, just take a splash of gas. So this is where it comes down. Are they going to take tires on this one, or are they just going to take a splash of gas to get them to the end of the race? Because looking at Agan, if he can make it another 9 laps, we'll say, sitting at lap number 48. That would make him go to lap 57. He would only have to take 12 laps of gas rather than the full 28. So less than half of the amount of fuel that you would need to take. Perhaps we see some guys not take tires?
Well, the question isn't about the pit stop time, because at the end of the day, it takes the same. It actually takes longer to fill up gas than it does to change the tires on an IndyCar. So you don't lose any time.
Even with half a tank?
Yeah, you don't. It only takes like 4 seconds to change the tires on an IndyCar. It's super quick.
Fair.
It doesn't. So that's the thing. You're not going to lose time in the pits by changing tires. The question is, how much time are you going to lose on track getting them back up to temperature, and is the time lost on the track both A, going to be enough that you're going to be able to run that time back down and gain some now that you're on fresher rubber, or B, if you stay out on old tires, how much are you going to lose by running now on older rubber? We saw quite a few drivers experimenting with undercut strategies, just trying to get those tires up to temp a little bit earlier, but it's not ever really out of the question, because again, you know, Coda's got a lot of very high-speed corners, especially in the first sector, right? This track's got its share, but a lot of them are more medium-speed corners, like third, fourth gear. They're not very high-speed corners that these cars are running with. The only corners I can think of that are super high speed are, of course, that penultimate corner before the giant hairpin at the end of the track and the carousel right here.
Yeah, as they come around the carousel, Frenchman Kenter still holding on from Hoffman. And, you know, you're making a good point about the strategy. I think I've still got my mind stuck in the NASCAR strategy, and I haven't wrapped it completely around the IndyCar strategy. It's just so different. And it's so crazy to me that two different, you know, it's just, they're both racing. It's 4 tires on the racetrack, but it's just crazy how different the strategy can be. Is Wood almost, sorry, not Wood, a little bit further back. Wilson tried to make the move on Sounders, was not quite close enough.
Well, I mean, then you get like sports car racing as well, right? Where, I mean, it takes a minute to do a pit stop there. Oh, trouble, Matt Mullen, the third place runner now, going off the racetrack. So the Canadian having problems. Looking like he may have just gone for a lazy slide off the edge of the corner. Did a great job to lock it down, though, so he didn't, I think, tag the berm, but he didn't slam in right up it like so many others have tonight.
Oh, is it Saunders? Losing the position finally to Wilson. Coming down to the carousel section, or right before the carousel section, Wilson finally getting by, not even having to make the move on him, and Sounders just completely misses the apex, missed the braking zone, and locked up that right front tire, getting down into the corner.
Pressured him into a mistake, and that was what Wood was hoping. Sorry, that's what Wilson was hoping for. That's all she wrote in your battle for 12th. That just leaves now this fight between Kinder and Hoffman as the lone fight that's within a second on the racetrack.
Yeah, and Kinder had about 7 seconds on Hoffman for that issue that he had, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kinder's got the pace to stay up in front of him. The only thing is Hoffman did come from the back of the pack, so you know Hoffman's got a ridiculous amount of pace too, but he's just struggling in that dirty air. There's just one lane around this racetrack, around Sonoma, and the's just not a lot of grip compared to a lot of other racetracks, and it becomes really difficult to get around these high-speed sections. But this is the moment right here for Hoffman, trying to do a little bit of strategy, short pitting over Kinder, coming down pit road, getting all he can down to the pit, or down into the pits, late on the brakes down to the yellow cone. Now coming down.
So one of the Vortex Sim Racing cars will kick off our second run of pit stops this afternoon, and we'll see if the 05 machine is going to be going up on the jacks for tires. Sure will. Tires is going to be the call for Jan Hoffman. Cameron Dance is in as well from second on the racetrack. So expect the rest of the field now to come in within the next 5 laps or so.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as the pit stops, or the pit stop cycle starts, you typically see everybody come down pit road within 3 or so laps. Here, I feel like that's a little early for a couple of these guys based on the last pit stop, right? They made it 28 on the last one, so you'd expect them to make it to about 56. But a couple of guys did short pit, so we could see this spread out a little bit more than our first green flag cyclers. We're looking at the 05, trying to hold on to this position coming down into the carousel area. Garrett trying to get it away from Hoffman after Hoffman has just come out of pit lane. Tough spot for Hoffman to be in. He needs to keep this clean air so that he can continue to run down the guys that he undercut, but it's not looking to be the case as the ESTV number 68 gets around the outside.
And that Aero X car is going to steal away what is right now on track 7th, but remember, Garrett is yet to pit. That's the other problem here, right, is the fact that Hoffman is almost needlessly being slowed down right now. Garrett is yet to come down to pit road. Hoffman's good to go to the end. So how is this actually? Oh, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. Garrett actually undercut Hoffman. He pit a lap earlier. So this is actually for position to the end of the race.
Yeah, so that ends up hurting Hoffman massively. When did Garrett come down pit road? That must have been a massive
49,
undercut.
lap 49.
Wow. Coming down 3 or 4 laps earlier than everybody else. Great job there. I mean, it ends up being a great move for him because he's found himself in a position to potentially fight for that 4th place spot. I didn't even think he was in it. And now that might turn into 3rd because that's our 2nd place runner, Molnar, off the racetrack, and Cameron Dance. Why is Cameron Dance 40 seconds off the race lead? Oh, sorry, Egan hasn't pitted yet. My mistake. But Molnar also hasn't pitted yet. And so that ends up being a big mistake from Molnar. He's lost 20 seconds over the course of the last 5 laps.
Up over the rise and just picked up the throttle, and I think he just kept that out of the barriers.
Yeah, I thought I missed something with Dance there for a minute. I completely forgot he came down pit road. That scared the heck out of me. I was like, where did he lose 30 seconds from? But that makes a little bit more sense. Unfortunately for Molnar, though, he's still got a pit. Now, the battle for 5th was 50 seconds off the race lead? Or sorry, I guess Kinder hasn't pit yet either. He's 59. So that is the race for essentially the 4th place position.
About half the field.
Even after the pit stops. Yeah, I'm just kind of doing a little quick math in my head. I'm just thinking maybe Molnar would get into a fight for that or get dropped down into that fight, but I don't think that he's quite to that point yet. Hasn't lost enough time to cycle himself out to be back behind Kinder or LaVille.
Andrew Wood going to drop behind Johnny Garrett and Jan Hoffman, so it's a 3-way battle now for 6th as Wood will join the party. And Hoffman trying to use this advantage to pull away, but Garrett not letting them have it here. And now Wood, he's got to hope that these guys slow each other down enough that he can get those tires back up to temperature in a hurry so we can get back into the fight.
Yeah, Wood's got to do whatever he can to get the temperature back in those tires and be able to fight up here. I mean, it stinks because he let off a couple laps, or he pitted a couple laps after. Maybe you would think that he would be able to jump Hoffman and Garrett as they had cold tires for a couple laps, but unfortunately it just could not happen for Wood. Now stuck behind Hoffman and Garrett in that 64. All these guys have 1 lap off the race lead. I believe that they're all going to unlap themselves after Egan comes down pit road. But they will be under danger. Oh, side by side through the S's. Tough area to get side by side. But here he comes. Wood to the inside. Contact. No, the 68 hard into the inside fence.
No.
And the right front tire is gone. He's going to be out.
That is the crash that we were worried about was going to happen. Johnny Garrett taken out by Andrew Wood on a huge high-speed crash coming through that final kink. Oh, that is a tough break. What a
They were
violent
side by
impact.
side before the corner. I just couldn't tell if Wood missed the apex or if Garrett turned in like Wood wasn't there.
Oh boy, that is a hard hit. And there's Andrew Wood getting into the 68.
Oh, that's a tough one. It's really, really close. I feel like Wood is coming off of that a little bit, but Garrett's also pinching him really heavy, not giving him much room for error.
I mean, we'll look at this again from above, which will kind of give a bit of a better angle at. Okay, well, that's a bit much. We'll try again. I'm sorry, but by typical open racing standards, Garrett has that line. Wood has to back out. He did not have rights to that line there. Not by typical open wheel rules.
Before they get to the corner, his front tires are even with the side pods of Garrett's Indycar. Is that not enough overlap to constitute a move?
It depends on where you're at when you hit the turn-in point. I think that self-preservation at the end of the day, right? I think is something that has to be taken into account. And I mean, that's damaged Andrew Wood's car, and that's going to make it effectively impossible now for him to run down Jan Hoffman unless Hoffman makes a mistake. So at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, Wood got a spot, but he's basically ensured that's the only spot he's going to get.
You're definitely not wrong. I have a hard time with that because I feel like he's got enough overlap, but it's so close. It really, really is, and that's a high-speed corner. But to my point, I feel like with a high-speed corner like that, the 68 could have given him more room and just used the outside line with the momentum to have enough momentum to get down to the next corner. But I mean, at the end of the day, hindsight's 20/20, and it was just a bang-bang play between the 64 and 68. Just unfortunate the 68 loses 10 spots off of it.
Yeah, that's the wreck we were worried about was going to happen too, right? With the fact that being such a very high-speed corner. And let's be honest, I mean, if that's not a high-speed corner, they take that chicane that slows these cars down, Garrett probably spins off into the gravel trap, keeps it off the wall, and it's no hard, no foul, but...
Heck, they probably would have just gotten into the corner slower and not even had an issue between each other in the first place. Yeah, I mean, they probably would have been fine side by side if it was slower. But I mean, just two guys fighting for the same bit of real estate for the 7th place position coming to the end of this thing. It's just what's gonna happen in racing.
Ethan Hagen out of pit road and still 40 seconds clear just about of Cameron Dance, although that gap is rapidly coming down now as the timing loop updates itself. I think about 13 is going to be the actual gap as Cameron Dance back out of the racetrack. But after that, it's a minute back to Matt Molnar, and that hasn't been helped by Molnar's own mistakes as well, remember. To see Kinder entering pit road just behind, and Gerlicka has had a problem.
Yeah, looking at Gerlicka coming up to the double right. Just under braking. Well, I say under braking. I don't know if there really was any braking. Because
he may have
wide. Lets everybody go.
Yeah, I was gonna say he may have had a blue flag and he was just making an attempt to let everyone through.
Fair enough. I've been paying attention to Ethan Hagen too on this outlap just to make sure he hasn't made any issues because I mean everybody's been struggling on these cold tires and he's looked okay. Hasn't had any major mistakes. Dance has, I think, reeled in that gap just a little bit, but not enough to really make it mean anything. He's actually lost time over the course of the last 10. So Ethan Hagen's looking pretty good at the front of this field now that his tires are up to temperature. I got to think that he's going to, oh man, the 31 off the racetrack again.
Yeah, just going a little bit wide in turn 2, but other than that, no hard, no foul. Saunders and VJO are looking to be a bit tight to one another. Kinder just ahead of these drivers, running in 4th and on the lead lap. It's giving Saunders some dirty air to battle with, but the good news is VJO is not exactly being helped any by that factor either. So, whoa. Saunders going to keep on keeping on as he had a little bit of a blink there coming down the backstretch. And they circle their way back around and fire through the S's. It is incredible the speed that you can take through these corners in machinery like this. It's been so long since I've covered an IndyCar race that, well, since I've regularly covered IndyCar races at least, that it still is a bit astonishing, the engineering marvels that these cars have. But, I mean, you have to wonder how next week, 2 weeks from now, is going to go as well, right? I mean, Long Beach is, it's a difficult track, and we've seen the problems it can throw up, and we've seen a lot of spins, right, with all the bumps that these cars have. That track is one of the bumpiest on the entire season, and there's no runoff areas to help you.
No, not at all. So that's going to, I really hate that I'm not going to be here for that race because that's going to be absolutely insane to watch at Long Beach here in the Classic IndyCars. So I'm a little upset with myself that I'm not going to be here. But for you and whoever you get to fill in for me, y'all are going to have a hell of a time.
Oh, for sure. It wouldn't surprise. It would have surprised me if it went the way of the last street circuit race that I called with these guys, which was a few years ago at Detroit Belle Isle, where only 2 cars were left on the lead lap, and one of them was at risk of going a lap down within the next 2 laps or so. We could very well see that, where you only have about a dozen cars left on the track at the end of that race. But for now, you still got a good run here at Sonoma. You see Andrew Wood trying to battle with Jack Stiles, and that's a race leader right ahead of them as well.
Yeah, Ethan Hagen coming through the S's here in front of a couple cars that he's just put a lap down. Andrew Wood trying to still hold on from Jack Stiles, but I just feel like these two, I feel like Hoffman, Wood, Stiles, LaVille, they've all been relatively under a blanket for the last, 20 laps or so. They've spread out a little bit into their own little separate packs, but it's just been hard racing all throughout what would be the midfield, I suppose, in Formula One. You know, with 20 cars out here, I guess the midfield's fifth to 10th, right? So everything between there has been absolutely phenomenal to watch this entire race at Sonoma. But Ethan Hagen up front is just making it look easy with a 10-second lead over Cameron Dance.
Whoa! Holy cow, Wood with a huge tank slapper coming up and over the rise. That was close, and we're going to do something unorthodox. We're going to back this footage directly up because I cannot understate how close this was. Right on board. Yikes!
That'll put some hair on your chest.
Yeah, talk about a snap. Oh, and he's... Woo, another good save!
How in the world has he not destroyed that car?
He lost the position, but I think he'll take that over the alternative.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, what in the world? He should not be in this race anymore. The 97, though. Kinder getting passed by LaVille, side by side, down the front straightaway, tight. Coming down through the kink of 1, down to the heavy braking zone of 2. It looks like the Frenchman's going to give it up.
Good
Move LaVille up to 4th. Great job from LaVille, coming from 22nd on the grid.
Right on board. There you saw Luke LaVille getting down into the corner. Watch Kinder here and how close he got to this pit wall. I mean,
Wow.
He actually hit the pit wall.
Wow.
That
Wow.
might have contributed to him losing it, but again, that could have fired him across the track and cleaned out both of them.
Definitely cost him a little bit of momentum to where he couldn't fight it going down into turn number 1. But like you mentioned, I would much rather take that over the alternative for that one, because that could have been huge down the front straightaway. I've seen massive accidents down into turn number 1 at Sonoma IRL. That would have been probably bigger than all of them.
By the way, we remember that incident with Johnny Garrett and Andrew Wood that we were talking about in that really fast corner, and we were debating who was potentially at fault. Well, Johnny Garrett's gone ahead, and he's raising his hand on that one. He said, yep, he was making a good pass. His setup was tight, didn't know what he was doing to the situation, and hoped they didn't have too much damage. So, well, Garrett's going to take the fall for that one, it would appear, which is, I find interesting, but I mean, hey,
I feel like it's very 50-50, to be honest.
I kind of agree.
It's so close. That was one of the closest wrecks to racing incidents that I could see, as we see the 31 off the racetrack in the final corner. But again, it's just, Johnny was close to being to the point where I felt like there was not enough overlap, and Johnny should have just taken the normal racing line. But I mean, it was so unbelievably close that it's hard to blame Wood for keeping the nose in there. But again, it just comes into, it's a racing incident, 2 guys going for the same piece of real estate at the same time. So, it's not like it was malicious by anybody. It's just a racing deal.
Well, I was going to say, what we call incidents that are 50-50? Racing incidents.
Exactly. They're not really anybody at fault, or you can maybe even say both drivers had something to do with it.
Yeah,
I think it's probably
both drivers could have done more to avoid it.
Exactly. I agree 100% with that.
Saw VJO try to attack Andrew Adair Saunders down into the down to the turn 7 there, and it didn't go his way. Saunders hangs on for that 11th position, and only with 7 laps to go here at the stripe. So these guys have, VJO's got to get a move on if he wants to make up that extra spot. He doesn't have a lot of time anymore.
No, we are quickly running out of time. I'm honestly surprised we're under 10 laps to go. Blows my mind we've got 7 laps left in this thing. 6 laps, I should say, as Ethan Hagen's just taking the start finish line one more time.
So
I mean, that blows my mind. I feel like this race has gone by so quick.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, we talk about it, these drivers have right now 7 laps left. That could very easily only turn to 6, though. Hagen's almost certainly going to catch them both by the time this race comes to a close. VGO's got to make a move quickly here because of how little time's left. If Hagen gets around him, he might not be able to run that gap back down to pick off the spot.
Yeah, VJO running out of time here. Coming through the carousel, and again, he's stuck in that dirty air, and he's got Ethan Hagen breathing down his neck too, so he's going to get the blue flag here pretty soon. Gonna have to give up that spot. Now that does maybe give him an opportunity. Get that blue flag, give up the position, and tuck right in behind Ethan Hagen so that you have the potential to jump Saunders whenever Saunders gets lapped. So I don't know. There's a little bit of strategy that VJO could play here as they're preparing to get lapped by Ethan Hagen.
Hagen's got a front row seat in the battle for the 11th place, and now Hagen's got a choice, right? I mean, he's got 8 seconds to play with back to camera dance. He can afford to lose a bit of time. Does he show a little bit of mercy here and allow these guys to battle it out, see if maybe a move could be made before he goes in and disrupts the fight?
Man, little lock up there from VJO, and if I'm Hagen, I'm so nervous. He's got a decent gap, but it's not big enough to where he can just stay behind these guys through the rest of the race. I think Dance catches him if he stays behind him. So,
there we
VJO
go.
getting
VJO's
way out of the way.
Yep,
But you still just don't want to force the issue, but you also don't just want to stay back there forever. Now, that from VJO, it was a good job getting out of the way, but it was probably a little bit too good of a job getting out of the way. To my point, I wanted him to stay right up to the back bumper of Ethan Hagen. Get out of the way and get right up to the back bumper so that you can, or get up to the back wing so that you can, have an opportunity to pass Sounders here. But instead, Sounders gives it away to the inside of Hagen, and he easily follows through behind Hagen. That was a perfect place to give it up.
Well, the problem is, though, look at how much time he lost with that as well. VJO goes right back up to Saunders. This battle's back on.
Yeah, it's back on, but I just felt like the best opportunity to pass was through that, because now still it's the same predicament we were in just a while ago with him just being stuck in the dirty air.
Slowdown penalty, I think, for VJO here as he pulled over. Oh, no! And he's clipped the barriers. Spins it off. He had a slowdown that he had to serve, took too much curb, and then trying to give him the time, he slams the wall, and that left front is destroyed.
Oh, terrible, terrible break for VJ. Oh, the second time we've seen that happen tonight, coming through that corner. Somebody tapping one of the tires with that right rear. What in the world?
Just hooked him. He may have hit that with the right front, too, He hit it with both. That's not a good feeling at all. And then
one of those. Oh, that left front is.
Yeah, well, he's just spun off the racetrack again. I mean, look at it. He's trying to nurse that car back around and.
Oh my goodness.
Slides off, noses it into the fence, and that car's stranded. He couldn't get it rolling again. Likely broke something else on the car, and that's it. Game over.
He'll only drop back to the 15th place spot as Garrett is 10 laps down in 16th. But
he's in the pits.
Yeah, but he'll still. I'm just saying he's going to drop back to 15th. That's where he's going to finish. Which he's already dropped back to, I suppose, with the tow. But he was running 12th beforehand, so I mean that's a tough 3 positions to lose there from VJO after running a decent race. Just one big mistake coming into the final corner like that can cost you.
That's a tough break too, right? I mean, it's an easy mistake to make. I mean, these cars, they can corner very well. You want to take as much as you can. You don't get a slowdown, so long as you don't go on the right side of those tire bundles. They don't play nice though when you mistreat them.
No, they don't move on iRacing either. Real life, there's a little bit more forgiveness with those tires because if you hit them, they're going to move a little bit. And if you know physics, you know that if something else moves, that's better for your car if you hit it in terms of damage. But if something doesn't move, if you're hitting a concrete pole, well, unfortunately, the car is going to be what takes all of the damage, not the stationary object that it hits. And that's what we see here on iRacing with those tires on the inside. Not able to move here, and it causes major damage.
Kinder trying to hang on against a charging Jan Hoffman. Hoffman trying to see if he can get up and get to a top 5 position for the end of this race. He's got 4 laps right now to make that happen. Sorry, 3 laps to make that happen. So could we see Jan Hoffman make up one more spot before the end of this race? They're not going to be lapped by Ethan Hagen, so they'll have the time to duke it out.
Kander's still holding on, but I don't know. I think Hoffman will give it one more go, right? He'll at least try it into one of these braking zones one more time, but I don't know if it'll be enough. It's just so hard. We'll see it here through the carousel. Like, can he follow? He's not even running the very bottom through the entry of the corner because he's got to get some clean air somewhere. He's got to run a little bit wider, and it just puts him off enough to where he's not able to get that run, not able to use the slipstream down to this double right just as well as he needs to, and costs him just a little bit. And then again, through the S's, and then that fast right-hand kink, it's just dirty air city until you get down to the last braking zone. And by then, you've probably lost all the time. But man, just look at that time on the bottom right. Yeah. He's caught him 0.5 of a second, 4 laps in a row. And now as soon as he gets to the back bumper, unable to do anything.
He's got 2 laps, though. It's plenty of time to still make something happen, but it's not enough time that he can afford to dilly-dally, right? So he's going to have to take the first opportunity he sees, the first door that opens up. They'll take 2 laps to go. Ethan Hagen about 10 seconds off the gearbox of these 2 drivers. That was going to have tense game there for Hoffman that last lap by, but Hagen will take that final lap this time by. And the Pavement Recycling Systems 150. It's getting down to it. We got one more battle that is yet to be decided, and it's the fight for the final spot inside the top 5.
Yeah, these guys still have 2 laps to go. Race leader only with 1. Unless these guys, I guess if they crash each other out, they'll get lapped, and this will be the last lap for him. But they should have 2 laps to go here. Hoffman still following, trying to get something, but again, through that carousel, it's just so tough. The Frenchman maybe had a little bit of an issue there on exit, but not enough to give Hoffman an opportunity. Down to the double right once again. If he can just get close enough coming out of this corner to where he can really, really ride the gearbox all the way down the S's, then he has a shot down into that final braking zone, coming to the fast left, right, down the hill. What can he do? Can he make up any ground into this fast right-hander so that he can dive him into the final corner?
He caught the curve there as well and almost looped the back end. The gap's down a quarter of a second. He's making the look. Oh, locks it up big time, but not able to make it work. We'll keep tabs on that battle, but right now, Ethan Hagen working through the final couple of corners, and he leads every single lap. It is domination from Ethan Hagen, who takes Iconic Motorsports to victory lane today. And here goes Hoffman making the lunge on Kinder.
Oh, he got side by side, but he wasn't able to stay there. Going through that left-hander, he had the outside, wasn't able to complete the pass. Diving in deep down to this right-hander, not able to do it either down into there. This is the trouble spot, though. How close can he keep it through this carousel? Can he give himself an opportunity down into that double right? Coming down deep in the carousel, a little bit of a nervy moment from Hoffman. Going for the later apex, trying to get it over the Frenchman coming out of the corner. Does he get the run?
Well, he's there. He's closing in big time. Hoffman trying to make a look here. Down in towards turn number 7. Can't get the lunge. And the gap back up to 0.4 of a second. He's going to have to find some extra speed here big time through the S's. Right now, Kinder seeing if he can hang on. Back down the hill for the final time tonight. But Hoffman compromises his line. That might be it. He's going to have to go for something here into this final corner, but 0.4 of a second. It's not going to be close enough. Can Kinder hang on corner exit? He sure does. And it looks like Kinder will hang on for 5th.
Man, great racing between those two for the final spot in the top 5. Great job from Kinder holding on, even though Hoffman was a little bit quicker than him coming to the finish. Big shout out to Lucas LaVille, finishing in the 4th place spot after starting in 22nd. And Jan Hoffman, even though he didn't get that pass done, started in 19th, finished 6th.
Ethan Hagen will come home as your race winner tonight, and a very well-deserved one as well. Led every single lap of this race, even through the pit stop cycles. He was so far out in front that nobody could overtake him. This is a huge win for Hagen, and what a way to kick off the season, right, with a dominating performance. He can be very pleased with this one, I believe. I think that is it's a win that he's going to be looking to remember for sure. Taking a podium at Coda and then a win, you bet your bottom he's going to be taking the points lead at the end of this race.
Yeah, and an absolutely fantastic race from Ethan Hagen. I think that's the first mistake he's made all night. That's the first mistake he's made all night. If he makes the only mistake in the burnouts, that's a pretty good night.
That's the problem with these IndyCars, right? They got a lot of downforce, and they don't really do burnouts.
He just needs to just turn it around and go backwards. There's a big open spot over there after the last corner.
But across the start-finish line, right?
Yeah, I get it. But Sonoma's start-finish line isn't the most iconic in the world. If it was Indianapolis, I'd get it.
You should do a burnout down the drag strip there. That'd be fun.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. There we go. We'll have a burnout competition next time we come out here. But it was a wild race at the end of the night. We'll take a rundown of your official post-race results here. That was a thrilling race for the Pavement Recycling Systems 150 from Wine Country. And it is Ethan Hagen taking it home by 6 seconds over Cameron Dance. Matt Molnar rounds out the podium. We'll talk to all of them in just a moment. Luke LaVille finishes 4th. Sebastian Kinder just hanging on against Jan Hoffman for 6th. They were the last cars on the lead lap. Andrew Wood, Jamie Wilson, and Hans Pitkinen round out the top 10.
11th place finisher is going to be Andrew Saunders. Franz Josef Stoom finishes in 12th with Caleb Week 13th. Mike Gerlicka in 14th, and VJO in the 15th place position. Johnny Garrett finishes in 16th. First car off the racetrack, I do believe. Actually, VJO might have had to DNF that one in 15th. 17th is going to be Julian Antenna. Altenna, 18th, Randy Shoemake, 19th, Marshall Stanley. 20th place is Andrew Aitken with Rob Barnacal, rounding out the 21-car field, and then 3 DNSs, Brandon Dollar, Robert Roser, and Logan Simmons.
Tough break for Stanley and Aitken and Barnacal, for Barnacal and Aitken not even making it out of the first 5 corners on the racetrack before being forced to retire from this race. Only 14 cars come home to take the checkered flag here at the end of the night, and we'll get the chance now to talk to Ethan Hagen and, of course, the other podium finishers here at the end of the night. And we'll, of course, bring in, first and foremost, the driver that dominates the race tonight. He leads every single lap and comes home to take a very well-deserved race win from Sonoma. Ethan, walk us through it, because boy, so rarely do we see a driver dominate so efficiently.
Well, first of all, I suck at burnout, so I'll give you that first. But but yeah, I mean, it was such a great race. I mean, to start from pole, lead every lap, and that was probably the most fun I ever had on a road course race in a long time. So yeah, I mean, the car went smooth. I had a great setup, great team behind me, and managed to get to the win there.
Kind of walk us through what it was like on the racetrack. Obviously, when you don't have a lot to worry about from your mirrors, it's all about what's out front, and you had a lot of lap traffic to deal with over the course of these 68 laps.
I mean, there was a lot of traffic. I mean, this place is kind of doesn't have a lot of places to pass and such, and I would say it's a bit of a narrow racetrack. But all in all, the traffic went smooth. I mean, I know I locked up the tires a lot when I was trying to pass them, but yeah, I mean, these things happen from time to time. You're going to get into traffic and such, and sometimes they'll go your way, sometimes they will not. But at the end of the day, you're trying to lead the race and go for the win. So try and take care everything you can with not damaging your cars. So luckily everything went well, and hold on to the end.
It was a third-place finish 2 weeks ago in Austin, Texas, and of course, you get top of the podium here tonight in California. So safe to say then you're going to be taking the points lead here, exiting this race and swinging it over into Long Beach. Will we be seeing this 20 car being the title contender by season's end?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the road courses have been what I've been good at, and luckily we're going to another track that I'm pretty good at Long Beach. So I'm not only going to probably see the 20 car be a championship contender, but I say you're going to see this 20 car probably be a contender for the win next race.
Well, we'll see you then in 2 weeks as we'll take you to the streets of Long Beach. For now, though, congratulations on taking a very commanding drive here this afternoon, and we'll see you in 2 weeks then, also in California.
Thanks, guys.
That was Ethan Hagan joining us up here in the broadcast booth from Victory Lane. We'll roll on down to your runner-up, Cameron Dance, his second runner-up in a row, and Austin, you're standing by with number 2.
Man, Cameron, back-to-back P2 finishes. Seemed like tonight you had probably equal pace with Ethan Hagan. Towards, I don't know, the middle portion of this race, you just kind of stagnated that gap. It stuck around about 10 seconds for most of it. What more did you need at the beginning of this race to stay with him, to give yourself an opportunity to challenge him for the race win?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Yeah, it's got me a bit beat as to how he was doing such quick lap times for the entire race, and then how I managed to get to the same or quicker lap times right at the end. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether it was just the fact that that track really cooled off or rub it in a bit more. But yeah, unfortunate. But hey, look, P2 is a P2 at the end of the day. I'm not going to complain looking at championship wise. So looking pretty good.
How much are you looking forward to Long Beach next weekend? Are you a big fan of the street courses, or are you kind of more into these open road course style of races?
Yeah, I'm pretty into the street course races, to be honest. Obviously I did pretty well at Belle Isle a couple of seasons ago, and then obviously just street courses in general are really cool to drive around and stuff, just because you're on the limit all the time and making sure you're not hitting walls and stuff. So usually works in my favor. Tend to go quite well there, but unfortunately I'm going to be missing Long Beach, which is not what I hoped to have, but duty calls, and that's the way it is. So we'll hopefully be cheering on Jack if he does it, and hopefully our championship's not hurt too much from it.
Coming into tonight's race, we were really expecting it to be relatively easy to pass, coming down to that double right-hander after the carousel and into the final corner. We thought people would be able to make late diving moves into those, and we saw it a couple times. But we were kind of surprised at how difficult it was, and that we saw it a few less than what we expected. Just how hard was it to follow there tonight, especially around the carousel? It just seemed like maybe there's a little bit too much dirty air that y'all were fighting with.
Yeah, the dirty air was pretty severe, to be honest. I think just the fact that everybody's running probably quite similar aero setups, and the fact that they're probably running them quite high means that it's quite hard to get any sort of run compared to what you normally might find. So yeah, it was really difficult because you were trying to maximize the amount of grip you had, and then also trying to make sure that you weren't overdriving the car with the amount of understeer you had to deal with the aero wash. So yeah, it was difficult, but at the end of the day, you could use that to your advantage, being stuck in the dirty air as well, with the fact you were able to do a little bit of fuel saving or try and drive around the dirty air in such a way that you were able to set up a move. So it has its benefits, but it also has its disadvantages as well.
Well, Cameron, regardless of the dirty air problems tonight, still bringing it home P2. Great finish for yourself. Starting out this season super, super strong for the number 6. Any shout-outs you can give at the end of this?
Yeah, just obviously shout out to Jack and the Orbit Motorsport crew. Obviously done really, really well today. Obviously Jack could have been a bit better, but it is what it is. But 2 top 10s and a podium, so yeah, it's been good so far. And obviously cheers to everybody on the car, Demon Tweaks, Hybrid Tune, Fight CRC, some Racing Bible and some 3D, and obviously Robert and the team and you boys for the awesome broadcast and series so far.
Well, we appreciate it, Cameron, and congratulations once again on your 2nd place finish.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
All right, that was Cameron Dance, our 2nd place finisher. Next up, we're going to move into 3rd place. Matt Molnar, he's going to be standing side by side with Nolan Rimple.
Sure will. Matt Molnar will take it home. The Canadian will be joining us up here now for the number 3 spot on the podium. And, well, Matt, you saw a few incidents throughout the latter portions of that race. What was it like trying to keep a charging Lucas Laville at bay throughout the final laps?
Yeah, it was something, that's for sure. He really found a groove there at the end. He was way quicker than me at the end there. He even got the fastest lap, so it was pretty nerve-wracking there at the end, but luckily we kept it home, brought it home 3rd.
Strategy was key over the course of this afternoon. I know a lot of drivers right now are talking about if anybody took tires throughout the course of the race and if at which point when they were taking those tires. What was the strategy like for that number 29 machine throughout this evening?
Yeah, so I took tires on the first stop, but for the last stop I just kept the old ones on just so you didn't have to go through that weird warm-up phase on the outlap. But some drivers, they took tires on the final stop and they said it worked out better, so it's definitely going to be something that we probably will look into for the rest of the races this season for sure.
And I know we didn't see you out with us in the Circuit of the Americas this last week. Will we be seeing you back on the racetrack for Long Beach coming on up in 2 weeks here?
Oh, Long Beach for sure. I'm hoping to do as many races as I can this year. I was pretty disappointed that I didn't do the league last year, and hopefully I can come back for every single race, but we'll have to see how the season goes.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck then. We go racing 2 weeks from now on the streets of Long Beach. But thank you for taking the time to join us up here in 3rd. And, well, we'll see you on track back in California.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Matt Molnar joining us up here, 3rd place on the podium, and a good drive for him. We do have one more driver that's interested to give us a chit-chat. I know we don't usually talk to drivers outside of the podium at the ends of these races, but you know what? He fought his way up 18 positions. I think he's warranted an interview here post-race. We'll bring down Lucas Laville to give a chit-chat here to the 4th place finisher. And Austin, you're standing by with a driver that was the hard charger of the evening.
Yeah, hard charger. That's a understatement coming from the 22nd place position. Lucas, just finishing off the podium after starting all the way in the back. What's kind of the strategy from you and your teammate there, starting all the way at the back? Y'all clearly had race pace to where you could have contended for a podium.
Yeah, we did, and I didn't really plan for this. I wasn't ready this week, really. So it was a big surprise that I could manage to stay with everybody up front. Mid-pack early on, and then I just picked my way up there, I guess. I guess I was able to make more moves than most of the field because it feels like passing was difficult, but I managed to make moves in different places, which was nice. So, yeah, big surprise, but I definitely take 4th, which was a hard-fought 4th, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you came all throughout the pack. And I was talking to our 2nd place finisher, Cameron Dance, about the dirty air and how hard it was to follow. You made it look relatively easy compared to most people coming from 22nd, but I got to ask you, how difficult was it to get by and just to follow people around this racetrack today?
Yeah, it really was. It was about like taking tires correctly and managing the temperature, avoiding overheating, which was a big deal for me. I really took it easy in the S's, which made moves in the hairpin in turn 1 into pretty easy, quote unquote, compared to the field. So I think that was the difference. But yeah, dirty air was certainly a factor, which was really interesting. Wasn't really expecting to be able to make moves like that. So that's a good thing for the future, I guess, for the series. If we come back to Sonoma, I guess we'll try to come back here. And I'm really. It's really tough for me to find words about this race, considering I also had a fast lap there at the end, which was really unexpected as well. We'll see what the rest of the season gives to us.
Well, Lucas, big congratulations on finishing fourth today. Are there any? Is there anybody you can thank at the end of this one?
Yeah, big shout out to Jan, to Marshall and Robert. Team did great this week to prepare the car. Didn't really do anything much this week, so it's nice to get points for the boys. Also, big shout out to the rest of the admin team putting all this together, and big thanks to all the field who make this possible, and to you guys as well for I'm sure a great broadcast.
Well, we appreciate you, Lucas, and congratulations once again on that fourth place finish, coming all the way from the 22nd spot today at Sonoma, whenever it was notoriously difficult to pass. Big congratulations.
Thank you, boys.
All right, that was our fourth place finisher, Lucas LaVille, and that is going to do it for interviews here at the Sonoma Raceway. Nolan, wrap it up for us, buddy.
Holy cow. I mean, what an absolutely wild night it was indeed. I mean, you don't get much more excited than that, and I have a feeling we are going to be in for a lot of really thrilling racing action when we go racing 2 weeks from now on the streets of Long Beach. Before that, though, this Sunday night, the SRL Next Gen Cup Series will swing out to the Darlington Raceway, the track too tough to tame for race number 10, working into the second half of their season. That'll be at 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow, the High Tide Racing League Amateur Racing Designs Cup Series will swing out to Texas Motor Speedway for 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be for race number 5. Meanwhile, the OMSRL Truck Series kicks off chase season as they're going to be down racing at North Wilkesboro Speedway on Tuesday night. Then, of course, you got Beer League on Wednesday for their season finale. Be sure to check that out as well. If you did miss racing action tonight, fret not. You will be able to watch this race in its entirety on all of VSTV's global distribution platforms when they rebroadcast that race next week on April 14th. If you're curious about finding out more about who we are and what we do, you can check us out at www.greenflagtv.com. What an absolutely wild race from wine country, and it's only going to be even more crazy throughout the next coming weeks. My name is Noel Remple alongside Austin Edstrom. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us up here tonight, and once again, thank the Classic IndyCar Series for having us on board. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we go racing in Long Beach.